Greetings aspirants. Welcome to the REwise series by CivicCentre IAS. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about the current affairs of January month 2025. So now let's get started. Coming to the first question, as recently seen in the news, Panchay Parliament 2.0 has been organized by which of the following ministries? So here the question is asked about the Panchay Parliament 2.0. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. Now, let's talk about a very important event called Panchay Parliament 2.0. To begin with, this program was organized by the National Commission for Women and the Lok Sabha Secretariat in collaboration with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. And it was held on 6th January 2025 at a very special place, the Central Hall of the Parliament of India. Now, what made this event really special for the around 500 elected women representatives from scheduled tribes, who are the part of third tier Panchayat Raj institutions, came together from 24 different states. The main purpose for this gathering was to help these women leaders understand the constitutional and democratic values more deeply. Moreover, the event was organized to commemorate the 150th birth anniversary of the tribal freedom fighter and icon Birsa Munda. As part of the program, there were workshops and sessions for the participants. In addition to that, they also got a guided tour of important places like the new Parliament House, Samvidhan Sadan, and the Pradhan Mantri Sagrahalaya and the Rashtrapati Bhavan. In the conclusion, this event was designed to empower elected women representatives from scheduled tribes by improving their knowledge of governance, parliamentary processes, and constitutional issues. And the ultimate goal is to help them become more effective leaders in their communities. So now let's get back to our question here. As recently seen in the news, Panchay Parliament 2.0 has been organized by which of the following ministries? So as we discussed earlier, option D is the correct answer, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, because this event was organized by the National Commission for Women and the Lok Sabha Secretariat in collaboration with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So now let's get to another question. Consider the following statements with respect to district development coordination and monitoring committees. So here the question is asked about district development coordination and monitoring committees about the Disha scheme. So before answering this question, let's get into our topic. Now let's understand something called the district development coordination and monitoring committees, also known as Disha. And to start with, these committees are set up by the Ministry of Rural Development at the district level. They work under the chairmanship of the concerned member of parliament for the district. And now the main aim of Disha is to monitor the proper implementation of important central government schemes and programs. Not only that, these committees also make sure there is a better coordination among all the elected representatives so that development of districts happens efficiently and on time. In the same way, at the state level, there are also state development coordination and monitoring committees. These are chaired by the concerned chief minister or administrator. And these state level committees take care of issues that need to be resolved at the highest level in the state or union territory. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with respect to district development coordination and monitoring committees. And the statements are, they aim to monitor the budget allocations of centrally sponsored schemes. And the second statement is, they are constituted by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Which of the statements given above are correct? So coming to the first statement here, the first statement is incorrect because Disha monitors implementation but not the budget allocations. So here statement 1 is incorrect. And coming to the second statement, they are constituted by the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. This statement is also incorrect because they are formed by the Ministry of Rural Development but not by the Parliamentary Affairs. So here answer is option D, which says neither 1 or 2. Now let's get to another question here. Consider the following statements with respect to Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2025. So here the question is asked about the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So before answering this question, let's know about the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2025 and its importance. Now let's learn about a special event called Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. To begin with, this event is celebrated every 2 years or biennially or to honor the contributions of Indian diaspora, that is Indians living in other countries, for all they do for their homeland. And the 18th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas was held on January 8th to January 10th in 2025. The main theme for this year's celebration was Diaspora's contribution to a Vikshit Bharat, which means building a new developed India with the help of Indians across the world. This time, the host city was Bhubaneswar in the state of Odisha. Looking at the history, this event was first started in 2003 as an annual event, but in 2015, it was changed to biennial celebration. And finally, it is important to note that Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is organized by the Ministry of External Affairs. Now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with respect to the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2025. And the statements are, it is an annual event which was started in the year 2003, and then it aims to honor the contributions of the Indian diaspora to their homeland. And third statement says that Tamil Nadu hosted the 18th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Which of the statements given above are correct? So here coming to the first statement, it is an annual event which was started in the year 2003. This statement is incorrect because it was started as an annual event in 2003, but later it was changed to biennial in 2015. So here statement 1 is incorrect. Now coming to the second statement, it aims to honor the contributions of Indian diaspora to their homeland. So here the statement is correct because the event honors the contributions of the Indian diaspora. It's the theme of this year's Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, which is diaspora's contribution to a Vikshit Bharat. Now coming to the third statement, Tamil Nadu hosted the 18th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. See, this statement was also incorrect. As we have discussed earlier, it is Bhubaneswar in Odisha, but not Tamil Nadu. So here the final answer is option D, which is statement 2 only correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to the National Turmeric Board. So here the question is asked about the National Turmeric Board. So before answering this question, let's get into our topic. Today, let's learn about the National Turmeric Board, a very important step taken to support and grow the turmeric sector in India. And to begin with, the chairperson of this board is Shri Palle Ganga Reddy, and its headquarters is located in Nizamabad of Telangana. And as for its members, the board includes the chairperson along with the representatives from the Ministry of Ayush, the Department of Pharmaceuticals, the Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, and the Department of Commerce. And also in addition to this, representatives from the top 2 turmeric growing states, Maharashtra and Telangana, and from Meghalaya are also included. States will be represented on the board of rotation. And now let's look at the main functions of the National Turmeric Board. Firstly, it will promote the research and development of new turmeric products. Secondly, it will help in value addition of turmeric-based products from marketing board. And next, the board will create the awareness about the essential and medicinal properties of turmeric. And it will also work to improve turmeric yield and enhance the logistics and supply chains and support trade into the new market. And another key function is to ensure the quality, safety standards in turmeric production and exports. And moreover, the board will provide leadership, support, and government departments and help to coordinate efforts across different sectors. Its main goal is to encourage the growth and the development of turmeric sector in India. The board is especially focused on increasing the trade of turmeric and its products because turmeric offers so many health and wellness benefits. Now, a quick word about turmeric itself. See, turmeric is also known as the golden spice. The bright yellow color in turmeric comes from a pigment called curcumin, and it is actually a rhizome, which means it is an underground stem that grows horizontally and stores the food. Turmeric has many benefits. It uses it for medicinal purposes, especially because of its anti-inflammatory properties. And it is also widely used in cooking and even as a dye. Finally, it is exciting to know that India's turmeric exports are expected to reach $1 billion by 2030. So now here, after discussing this, let's back to our question. Consider the following statements with respect to the turmeric board. And coming to the statements, the first statement says that it comprises of a chairperson and 10 members from Telangana and Maharashtra, which are the major turmeric producing states of the country. And the second statement says that it will create awareness of the essential and medicinal properties of turmeric. And the third statement says that it will facilitate growth and development of the turmeric sector in country. Which of the statements given above are correct? So here coming to the statement number 1, it comprises a chairperson and 10 members from Telangana and Maharashtra, which are the major turmeric producing states of the country. See here, the statement is incorrect because while it includes the representatives from Telangana and Maharashtra, but it does not have 10 members from those states itself. So the statement 1 is incorrect. Now coming to the second statement, it will create awareness of the essential and medicinal properties of turmeric. See here, the statement is correct because the board will create awareness about turmeric's properties. Now coming to the third statement, it will facilitate growth and development of the turmeric sector in India. Yeah, this is also correct because it is one of the key goals to develop the turmeric sector in India by the National Turmeric Board. So here the correct answer is option C. It says statement number 2 and 3 are correct. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to the Lokpal. So here the question is asked about the Lokpal. Before answering this question, now let's get into the topic. Now let's understand the role of Lokpal, an important institution in India's fight against corruption. To begin with, the Lokpal is made up of total of 9 members, which includes 1 chairperson and 8 members. Out of these, 50% must be judicial members, meaning they should have legal background or experience. And also 50% of the total members must come from SC, ST, minorities and women to ensure the fair representation. Now, talking about the term of office, each member, including the chairperson, serves for 5 years or until they turn 70 years old, whichever comes earlier. When it comes to the jurisdiction, the Lokpal has the authority to investigate complaints against the Prime Minister, ministers, members of parliament, group A, B, C and D officers and officials of the central government. However, it is important to note that the judiciary is kept outside the scope of Lokpal and Lok Yukta Act 2013. At the state level, similar bodies called Lok Yuktas are established. But here's the difference. Each state creates its own Lok Yukta through a separate law. So the composition, term and jurisdiction can vary from one state to another. And lastly, the Lokpal cannot start an investigation on its own because it can take only action when a complaint has been filed. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with respect to Lokpal. The statements for the first statement is it is composed of chairperson and 8 members. See, this statement is correct because the Lokpal includes 8 members with 1 chairperson. Now coming to the second statement, the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers are kept outside the purview of Lokpal. This statement is incorrect because the Prime Minister is within the Lokpal's jurisdiction but the CMs are not in its. Now coming to the third statement, Lokpal can take up suo motu actions against the grade A and grade B officers. See, this statement is incorrect because Lokpal cannot act suo motu because it must receive a formal complaint first and then they can take action. Now here the correct answer is option A, which says statement only 1 is correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with respect to the Unified Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficiency and Development Act 2025. So here the question is asked about the Unified Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficiency and Development Act 2025, which is Waqf Board. We can also discuss about the Waqf Board here. So before answering this question, let's get into our topic. Now, first let's understand the Unified Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficient and Development Act 2025, a new law that brings several changes in how Waqf properties are managed in India. To begin with, the Act talks about how Waqf can be formed. See, firstly, it removes the concept of Waqf by user, meaning Waqf can now be formed only through a declaration or endowment. Now, the donor must be a practicing Muslim for at least 5 years and must own the property. And also in the case of Waqf Alal Aulad, which is family Waqf, it cannot deny the inheritance rights to female heirs, which is a step towards gender equality here. And now regarding the government property, the Act clearly says that any government land identified as a Waqf will no longer be considered Waqf. And if there is any dispute over ownership, the collector will handle it and submit a report to the state government. And earlier, Waqf boards had the power to decide whether a property is Waqf, but this provision has been removed in the new Act. And when it comes to the survey of Waqf properties, the collectors are now empowered to conduct surveys and pending surveys must be carried out according to the state revenue laws. Now, let's look at the composition of the Central Waqf Council. See, firstly, it must include 2 non-Muslim members. And then MPs, former judges and eminent persons appointed to the council don't need to be the Muslims. And however, members like representatives of Muslim organizations, scholars in Islamic law and chairpersons of Waqf board must be Muslims. And among the Muslim members, 2 must be women. Now, the composition of Waqf boards also get updated, which says that the state government is given the power to nominate 1 person from each background to the board. And they did not have to be Muslims. And the board must include 2 non-Muslim members, at least 1 member each from Shias, Sunnis and backward class of Muslims. And 1 member each from Bora and Aga Khani communities, if such Waqf exists in the state. And 2 Muslim women members. And finally, the Act gives several important powers to the central government. It can make rules regarding Waqf property registration, publishing of accounts and publication of Waqf board proceedings. And also, it get the Waqf accounts audited by the Comptroller and Auditor General or a designated officer here. So, now let's get back to our question. Consider the following statements with respect to the Unified Waqf Management, Empowerment, Efficiency and Development Act 2025. And here are the statements which says it has no clear provision regarding government properties as Waqf. And the second statement is, as per the new amendment, the Waqf board have the power to inquire and determine the Waqf property. Which of the statements given above are correct? So, Now looking at the statement 1, it has no clear provision regarding the government property as Waqf. See, this statement is incorrect because the new act clearly states that government property cannot be considered Waqf. And coming to the second statement, as per the new amendment, the Waqf board have the power to inquire and determine the Waqf property. This statement is also incorrect because the power of Waqf boards to declare property as Waqf has been removed. Now, here the final answer is option D, which says neither one nor two statements are correct. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the Niti Ayog. So here the question is asked about the Niti Ayog. Before answering this question, let's get into our topic. See, Niti Ayog is an important organization that helps to shape India's future policies. To begin with, Niti Ayog stands for the National Institution for Transforming India. It was formed on January 1st, 2015 through a resolution of the Union Cabinet. It was created to replace the Planning Commission of India, and since then it became their premier policy think tank of the Government of India. And Niti Ayog plays a big role in promoting cooperative federalism, which means it encourages cooperation between the center and the states for better development. Now, it's important to note that Niti Ayog is an advisory body here, meaning it gives advices and suggestions to the government. It does not have the power to make laws. Now, let's look at its composition first. The chairperson is the Prime Minister of India, and the vice chairperson is appointed by the Prime Minister. And there's also a governing council, which includes all the chief ministers of states and lieutenant governors of union territories, and full-time members who are experts in different fields and nominated by the Prime Minister. And here also ex-officio members, which can be up to 4 members from Union Council of Ministers and also nominated by the Prime Minister himself. And a Chief Executive Officer, CEO, who is appointed by the Prime Minister and serves as a secretary to the Government of India. And in addition to this, regional councils are also set up to deal with specific regional issues. And these are chaired by the Prime Minister or a nominee, and include chief ministers and lieutenant governors from that region. Finally, there are special invitees. These are experts and specialists nominated by the Prime Minister to help with specific topics or policies. So, now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to Niti Ayog, and the statements are: the vice chairperson of Niti Ayog is appointed by the President of India, and the second statement is it comprises both full-time and part-time members, and third statement is National Data and Analytics Platform was established under Niti Ayog. So, how many of the above given statements are correct here? So, coming to the statement number 1, it is incorrect because the vice chairperson is appointed by the Prime Minister but not by the President. So, the statement 1 is incorrect. Now, coming to the second statement, it comprises of both full-time and part-time members. The statement is correct because it includes both full-time and part-time members. Now, coming to the third statement, National Data and Analytics Platform was established under Niti Ayog. This statement is also correct because National Data and Analytics Platform, which is NDAP, was launched under Niti Ayog. And here the final answer is option B, which says 2 statements are correct from the given statements. Now, moving on to the next question. Which among the following organizations published the book Belief in the Ballot, Human Stories Shaping India's 2024 Elections? So, before getting into the topic, let's answer the question first here. And here the correct answer is option B, the Election Commission of India. On the National Voters Day of 2025, the ECI released this book, which highlights the real stories from the 2024 elections. So, now let's discuss about the National Voters Day 2025 here. See, the National Voters Day, which is 15th National Voters Day, which is celebrated every year on 25th of January. This year celebration is extra special because it comes right after the successful conduct of the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, which is known as the largest democratic exercise in the world. And at the same time, the Election Commission of India, or ECI, is celebrating the 75 years of its dedicated service to the nation. A big milestone in Indian democracy, right? And the theme for this year's National Voters Day is Nothing Like Voting, I Vote for Sure. This theme encourages every eligible citizens to take part in this voting process with pride and responsibility. And to mark with this occasion, the ECI has released 2 special publications. A book titled Belief in the Ballot, Human Stories Shaping India's 2024 Elections, which shares inspiring real-life stories behind the election process. And secondly, a coffee table book titled India's Votes 2024, A Saga of Democracy, capturing the essence and scale of elections in a visually engaging way. Now, moving on to the next topic. Consider the following statements with reference to the Annual State Education Report 2024. So here the question is asked about the Annual State Education Report 2024. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. Now let's take a look at the 14th Annual Status of Education Report, or ACER 2024, which gives us the valuable insights into states of education in rural India. Now, to start with, Annual Status of Education Report is released by the Pratham Foundation, which is a well-known non-governmental organization, and the first ACER report was conducted in 2005, and it quickly became an important tool for understanding how children in India are doing in school. It's a nationwide citizen-led household survey that gives a snapshot of children's schooling and learning, especially in rural areas. And the Annual State of Education Report was an annual report until 2015, but from 2016 onwards, it started following an alternative year cycle. That means 1 year they do the basic nationwide survey, and the next year a smaller survey focusing on the different age groups or learning areas. Now, this survey provides district, state and national level estimates of two main things. Firstly, children's enrollment status, and then their basic reading and arithmetic skills. Now, let's look at some key findings of the ACR 2024. Firstly, there's a positive trend in foundational learning, especially in the government schools. And then basic arithmetic skills have also improved slightly in both government and private schools, but government schools are progressing faster. However, there's been a slight drop in overall enrollment since 2022, including a drop in government schools enrollment. On the brighter side, enrollment in pre-primary institutions like Anganwadis and private LKG UKG has been increased, especially among 3 years old. And for older children aged between 15 to 16 years, there's been a decrease in dropout rates, which is a good sign. And interestingly, nearly 90% of 14 to 16 years old now have access to smartphones, and many are using them for both education and social media. And also 80% of government schools reported getting foundational literacy and numeracy training and resources. And the number of schools with usable girls' toilet, drinking water and books beyond textbooks has gone up. And however, the survey also found a rise in multi-grade classes and small schools, which comes with its own challenge. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the Annual State Education Report 2024. And the statements are, it is an annual report published by the Ministry of Education. And the second statement is, the first ACER report was published in 2015. And the third statement is, as per the ACER report of 2024, enrollment in pre-primary institutions have improved since 2022. Which of the following above statements are correct? Now coming to the statements, it is an annual report published by the Ministry of Education. This statement is incorrect because the ACR is published by the Pratham Foundation but not by the Ministry of Education. And moreover, the Pratham Foundation is non-governmental organization. Now coming to the statement 2, the first ACR report was published in 2015. This statement is also incorrect because the first ACR was published in 2005. Now coming to the third statement, as per the ACER report of 2024, enrollment in pre-primary institutions have improved since 2022. This statement is incorrect because as per ACER 2024 reported, increased enrollments in pre-primary institutions has been observed. Now here the correct answer is option C, which states statement 3 only correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. So here the statements are given about the student visas. So before answering this question, let's get into our topic. Now, the new student visa categories have been introduced to the Ministry of Home Affairs, which are part of India's efforts to attract the international students. And recently, the government launched 2 types of visas. And first one is the e-student visa, and the second one is e-student X visa. And these new visa categories are part of Government of India's Study in India program, which aims to make India a popular destination for students from around the world. Now, what's the e-student visa? See, this visa is for foreign students who are enrolled in accredited and undergraduate, graduate, doctoral or certificate programs in India. And it comes with maximum validity for 5 years and can be extended within India if needed. And next, we have the e-student X visa. What is the e-student X visa? See, this is meant for the dependents of e-student visa holders like family members who are traveling along with the student. Just like the student visa, it also has the maximum validity of 5 years and can be extended in India only. Now let's understand a bit more about the Study in India program. See, the main goal of this program is to attract foreign students by promoting India as an excellent place for higher education. And according to the current government rules, there is a provision of 10 to 15% of supernumerary seats in educational institutions, which are specifically meant for foreign students. And the students who come through this Study in India program will be admitted under this separate quota, and this means it won't affect the number of seats or admissions for Indian students. Now let's get back to our question. Consider the following statements. And the statements are, E-student X visa is for dependents of E-visa holders. And the second statement is the maximum validity of E-student visa is 5 years, which cannot be extended, whereas E-student X visa can be extended within India. Which of the statements given above are correct here? So coming to the first statement, E-student X visa is for the dependents of E-visa holders. This statement is correct because the E-student X visa is specifically for the dependents. It may be of family members of the E-student visa holders. Now coming to the second statement, the maximum validity of E-student visa is 5 years, which cannot be extended, whereas E-student X visa can be extended within India. This statement is incorrect because the E-student visa has the maximum validity of 5 years with an option for extension within India. As similarly, the E-student X visa also has a maximum validity of 5 years and also it can be extended in India. So here the final answer is option A, which says statement 1 is correct answer. Now moving on to the next question. With reference to Tobacco Board of India, consider the following statements. So here the question is asked about the Tobacco Board of India. Before answering this question, let's discuss about Tobacco Board of India. Now, Tobacco Board of India is a key organization that plays an important role in supporting tobacco farmers and promoting the tobacco exports. And to begin with, the Tobacco Board was established as a statutory body on 1st January 1976 under Section 4 of the Tobacco Board Act 1975. And the board is headed by a chairman and its headquarters is located in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. Its main responsibility is to ensure the development of the tobacco industry in India. One of the board's most important role is to make sure that the farming system works smoothly and the tobacco farmers receive fair and remunerative prices for their produce. And also, it promotes the export of tobacco, helping India earn valuable foreign exchange. And to support the farmers, the board provides financial assistance through banks, along with inputs needed for growing high-quality tobacco. Besides that, the board carries out various extension and developmental activities to encourage sustainable tobacco cultivation practices. Although its primary function is to promote the export of all varieties of tobacco and related products, the board also looks after the production, distribution, and the regulation of Flue-Cured Virginia tobacco. Now, let's look at the composition of the board. See, the chairman is appointed by the central government of India and the members include the representatives from various important entities like the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, the government of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, members of parliament from both Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha, and also the government officials from ministries like Agriculture and Commerce and Industry. And to help farmers get better prices, the Tobacco Board has introduced an IT-enabled electronic auctioning system for FCV tobacco, making the process more transparent and efficient. Now, let's understand the economics of tobacco in India. See, in India, the second largest producer of tobacco in the world after China, and when it comes to Flue-Cured Virginia tobacco, India ranks 4th after China, Brazil and Zimbabwe. Now, India is also the second largest exporter of manufactured tobacco in terms of quantity after Brazil. In the year 2023 to 2024, the value of Indian tobacco exports reached 12,005.89 crore, which equals about 1,449.54 million US dollar. And finally, a great achievement is that tobacco farmers' incomes have doubled over the last 5 years, showing positive growth and support from the board. Now, let's get back to our question. With reference to the Tobacco Board of India, consider the following statements. And the statements are, the Tobacco Board is a constitutional body. And the second statement is, it is an advisory board attached under the Ministry of Agriculture. And the third statement is, it focuses on export promotion as well as a quality control. And the fourth statement is, headquarters are situated in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. How many of the above given statements are correct? So, here coming to the first statement, the Tobacco Board is a constitutional body. See, this statement is incorrect because the Tobacco Board is a statutory body but not a constitutional body. And coming to the second statement, this second statement is also incorrect because it is not just an advisory board, it has a more active role in regulating and promoting the tobacco industry, and it's also attached to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry but not the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, coming to the third statement, it focuses on export promotion as well as a quality control. Yeah, this statement is true because it plays a significant role in promoting the export of tobacco and maintaining the quality standards of tobacco. Now, coming to the fourth statement, headquarters are situated in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. Yeah, this statement is also correct because as the Tobacco Board of India headquarters are situated in Guntur district, Andhra Pradesh state. Now, here the final answer is option B, which says two statements are correct. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the National Critical Mineral Mission. So here the question is asked about the National Critical Mineral Mission. So before answering this question, let's know about the importance of the critical minerals and how India is working to secure them through the National Critical Mineral Mission. So to begin with here, critical minerals are essential for countries' economic development and also the national security. And what makes them critical is the fact that availability is very limited and they are often concentrated in just a few parts of the world. And this creates a risk of supply chain disruptions which can affect industries and natural interests. And to tackle this challenge, the government of India launched the National Critical Mineral Mission in the year 2025 under the Ministry of Mines. Now, let's look at the main objectives of this mission. See, first, it aims to secure India's supply of critical minerals by sourcing them from both domestic production and the foreign acquisitions. And second, it focuses on strengthening the entire value chain by improving technology, regulations, and financial systems to encourage innovation, skill development, and global competitiveness. And this mission is made up of 7 key components. First one is increasing domestic production. This means boosting local mining and mineral production to reduce our dependency on imports. And then comes acquiring mineral assets abroad. See, India will also look to secure mineral resources from other countries, ensuring a steady and reliable supply. And then recycling minerals. See, recycling helps to conserve resources and reduce the need for fresh mining. And then comes trade and markets. And here developing robust trade systems and market will help stabilize prices and meet growing demand. Now, and then scientific research and technology. See, here promoting the research and innovation will improve how minerals are extracted and processed. And then comes human resource development. This mission will train professionals and build skills needed in the critical mineral sector. And finally, funding and incentives. And to support this industry, the mission will offer financial support and incentives for sustainable growth. Now, let's talk about how critical minerals are used. See, they are used in various fields like in solar energy, minerals like silicon, tellurium, indium, and gallium are used to make the photovoltaic cells in the solar panels. And coming to the wind energy, rare earth metals such as dysprosium and neodymium are used in magnets inside wind turbines. For electric vehicles, minerals like lithium, nickel, and cobalt are essential for making lithium-ion batteries. And these same minerals, lithium, cobalt, and nickel, are also key for energy storage systems which help to store power from renewable sources. Now, let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the National Critical Mineral Mission. And the statements are, it is launched in the year 2015. And the second statement is, under this scheme, the Geological Survey of India, GSI, has undertaken various exploration projects for the critical minerals. And the third statement is, tellurium, gallium, and indium are few examples of critical minerals. How many of the given above statements are correct? So, here, looking at the statements, the first statement is incorrect because the mission was launched in 2025 but not in 2015. So the first statement is incorrect. Coming to the second one, under this scheme, the GSI has undertaken various exploration projects for critical minerals. This statement is also true because GSI has been involved in exploration projects for the critical minerals under this mission. Now, the third statement says that tellurium, gallium, and indium are few examples of critical minerals. Yeah, this statement is also true because they are the examples of critical minerals. So here the final answer is option B, which says two options or two statements are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following statements best describes the term hush money? See, here the question is asked about the hush money. So before answering this question, let's understand what hush money means. See, hush money is a payment made to keep someone silent. It is given to a person so that they don't reveal secret or sensitive information to the other persons. Now, in most cases, hush money is used to stop someone from disclosing details that could be damaging, especially in matters related to someone's personal life, politics, or financial dealings. And these payments are often connected with non-disclosure agreements or legal settlements, but they are not official or government payments. The main goal is to ensure silence or confidentiality. Now, let's see why hush money was in the news recently. See, in the May 2024, Donald Trump made an history by becoming the first US president to be convicted of a felony. He was found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records, and these charges were related to a $130,000 hush money payment made to Stormy Daniels, who is an adult female actress. And this was done just before 2016 presidential election. And the payment was intended to prevent her from disclosing an alleged affair with Trump during his campaign. And this act of hiding this payment led to the felony charges on Donald Trump. Now, let's get back to our question here. Which of the following statements best describes the term hush money? And the options are, option A says that a payment made to an individual to prevent them from disclosing sensitive or damaging information. And option B is the wealth that has been inherited rather than earned. And the third option is a fine imposed on an individual convicted of a crime to prevent further illegal activities. And the fourth option is a monetary compensation provided to employees for non-disclosure of trade secrets. So here option A is the correct answer. As we have discussed earlier, hush money is a payment made to an individual to prevent them from disclosing sensitive or damaging information. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. See here the question is asked about the India's first organic fisheries cluster. So here we can discuss about an important scheme which is Mantri Yojana. So now let's take a closer look at Mantri Yojana, which is a national scheme that being implemented in the Sikkim state. See, now looking at the objectives of the Mantri Yojana, the main goal of this scheme is to promote ecologically healthy fish farming systems. This means that it aims to avoid harmful chemicals, antibiotics and pesticides, ensuring that the fish farming process remains clean and sustainable. And also, the initiative focuses on minimizing the environmental pollution and preventing damage to aquatic ecosystems, all while promoting sustainable fish production. See, on one hand, they are promoting the sustainable fish production, and on the other hand, they are also minimizing the environmental pollution by preventing damage to the aquatic ecosystems. And also, one of the great things about this scheme is that fish produced under these conditions attract a premium price in both domestic and international markets. The scheme has a specific focus on Amur carp alongside other types of carps, ensuring the farming is both environmentally friendly and economically profitable. To support this initiative, NABARD, which is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, provides both financial and technical assistance to build the necessary fisheries infrastructure and train people to manage these systems effectively. And NABARD is also playing a key role in promoting fisheries cooperatives and forming fisheries-based farmer-producer organizations, which are in short called FFPOs, which will help grow the organic fish farming sector in the state. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements, and the statements are: India's first organic fisheries cluster is launched in Assam. And the second statement is it focuses on ecologically healthy fish farming system, avoiding the use of antibiotics and pesticides. And the third statement is financial assistance for this cluster will be provided by the Small Industries Development Bank of India. How many of the given above statements are correct? So here, coming to the statements, the first statement says that India's first organic fisheries cluster is launched in Assam. This statement is incorrect because as we have discussed that it was launched in Sikkim but not Assam. So the first statement is incorrect. Coming to the second statement, it focuses on the ecologically healthy fish farming system, avoiding the use of antibiotics and pesticides. See, this statement is correct because the scheme does emphasize sustainable fish farming methods in one hand, and also, as we have discussed earlier, with less environmental pollution, supporting the aquatic ecosystems. Now coming to the third statement, financial assistance for this cluster will be provided by the Small Industries Development Bank of India. See, this statement incorrect because the financial assistance for this scheme will be provided by NABARD, which is National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, but not the Small Industries Development Bank of India. So here the final answer is option A, which says that only one statement is correct. Now moving on to the next statement. India's first glass bridge is located in which of the following state? And here the options are West Bengal, Meghalaya, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. See, let's know the answer first before discussing the topic. The correct answer is option C, which is Tamil Nadu. So now let's learn about an impressive bridge in Kanyakumari, Tamil Nadu. See, this bridge is located in a very unique and scenic spot as it connects two famous landmarks, the Vivekananda Memorial and the Tiruvalluvar statue. Now, let's look at some interesting details about the glass bridge. See, the bridge is 77 meters long and 10 meters wide, making it a substantial structure. And also, it's a bowstring arch bridge, a type of bridge known for its elegant design and strong support. And what makes this bridge even more special is its location. It stands at the point where the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean meet. And from the bridge, you can enjoy an amazing 360-degree panoramic view of these vast waters. And in short, the bridge isn't just an important connection between two landmarks, but also offers stunning views of three major seas. Now let's get back to our question here. India's first glass bridge is located in which of the following state? As we have discussed earlier, Tamil Nadu is the correct answer. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the project Vistar, which is virtually integrated system to access the agricultural resources. So before answering this question, let's take a closer look at project Vistar, which is an important initiative for improving digital agriculture in India. Now, looking at the objectives of Project Vistar, the main goal of Vistar is to develop an unified, federated digital ecosystem for agriculture. This means it brings together reliable and updated resources from different platforms into one system. The project focuses on making digital solutions for agriculture more scalable, accessible, and inclusive so that more farmers can benefit from them. And one of the key features of Vistar is that it allows two-way communication, which means farmers can give their feedback on the system, making it more farmer-friendly and effective. It also supports the creation of digital public infrastructure for agriculture extension, helping farmers receive the latest knowledge and advice. And the ultimate goal is to empower farmers with actionable information that can help them make better decisions and improve their farming practices. Vistar also works on streamlining collaboration between the various stakeholders, ensuring that digital solutions for agriculture remain sustainable in the long run. And as a part of its efforts, the project focuses on training extension workers to use digital bots that help spread information and resources more effectively. And moreover, this project is led by the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the project Vistar, which is virtual integrated system to access the agriculture resources. And the statements are, it includes worker training through digital bots. And secondly, recently it signed a memorandum of understanding with IIT Bombay to share content on agri startups. And the third statement is, it is implemented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. How many of the above given statements are correct? Now coming to the statements, first statement is, it includes worker training through digital bots. This statement is correct because, as we have discussed earlier, Project Vistar uses technology to provide training and digital support, including via digital bots. Now coming to second statement, recently it signed a memorandum of understanding with IIT Bombay to share content on agri startups. Yeah, this statement is also true because Project Vistar has signed a memorandum of understanding with IIT Bombay for knowledge sharing and content related to agriculture startups. Now coming to the third statement, it is implemented by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. This statement is incorrect because, as we have discussed earlier, the Vistar is a project which is led by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Now here the final answer is option B, which is only two statements in the above given statements are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to entity locker. So here the question is asked about the entity locker. Now before answering this question, let's dive into what entity locker is and how it's transforming the way of businesses and organizations to manage their documents. So what is Entity Locker? Entity Locker is a digital platform developed by the National E-Governance Division under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And it is a secure cloud-based solution that makes it easier to store, share and re-verify and verify the documents for different types of organizations. And these organizations includes large organizations, corporations, micro, small and medium enterprises, which are in short MSMEs, and trusts, startups and societies. It plays a crucial role in India's digital public infrastructure and is part of government's plan to enhance digital governments and improve the ease of doing business as outlined in the Union Budget 2024-25. Now, let's take a look at key features of Entity Lockers. See, integration with government systems. See, it really offers real-time access and document verification by connecting with various government and regulatory databases. And then secure sharing. Documents can be shared securely using content-based mechanisms, ensuring sensitive information stays protected. And then comes the cloud storage, which provides 10 GB of encrypted cloud storage for organizations to securely store their documents. And then legally valid digital signatures. See, these are used to authenticate documents, making them officially recognized and valid. Now let's look at the benefits of Entity Locker. See, it simplifies document sharing, which helps in businesses easily share and access documents with partners and stakeholders. And compliance made easier. See, this platform includes features that helps business meet regulatory and reporting requirements. And then comes accountability. Every action related to document is tracked, ensuring the accountability, and which also reduces administrative workload by consolidating document storage and security. It lowers the administrative overhead. And it also provides the faster process. Entity Locker reduces the time taken to process documents, making business operations more efficient. And which cases it is useful. See, it used for vendor verification on procurement of portals. And then expedited loan applications for MSMEs, and helps businesses with FSS AI compliance documentation, and also assists with vendor verification during processes like GST and registration, MCA filings, and tendering. And it also makes corporate annual filings quicker and easier. In summary, Entity Locker helps businesses manage their documents in a secure, efficient, and legally valid way, all while reducing paperwork and improving the operational speed. Now, let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to Entity Locker. And the statements are, it is developed by the National E-Governance Division. And the second statement is, it is a cloud-based solution that simplifies e-banking. And the third one is, it uses the other authenticated role-based accesses to management ensure accountability. And also it has 10 GB of encrypted cloud storage for secure document management. Which, how many of the above given statements are correct? Now, coming to the first statement, it is developed by the E-Governance Division. See, this statement is correct because Entity Locker is developed by the National E-Governance Division. And the second statement is, it is a cloud-based solution that simplifies e-banking. This statement is incorrect because Entity Locker is a cloud-based document management solution, not specifically for e-banking. And then comes the third statement, it uses the other authenticated role-based access management to ensure the accountability. See, this statement is correct because the platform ensures accountability using other authentication, which is provided the consent by user. And coming to the fourth statement, it has 10 GB of encrypted cloud storage for secure document management. This statement is also correct because Entity Locker provides 10 GB of encrypted cloud storage. And the final answer is option C, which says 3 statements from the above statements are correct. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to Anitkat Bridge. See, here the question is asked about the Anitkat Bridge, which is also known as Chena Bridge or REwise Bridge. So, now let's talk about Anitkat Bridge, which is a remarkable engineering feat located in REwise district of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, let's look at the location and features of the bridge. See, the bridge is located about 80 kilometers from Jammu and spans an impressive 725.5 meters in total length. And it is one of the most striking features is its main pylon, which stands at the incredible 193 meters above its foundation, towering 331 meters above the riverbed. And this structure is incredibly sturdy and can withstand wind speeds of up to 213 kilometers per hour, making it highly resilient in extreme weather conditions. And it is designed to carry a train line with speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, ensuring safe and efficient transportation. And also, this bridge is a part of ambitious Udhampur-Srinagar-Baramulla rail link project, a key infrastructure project in the region. Its design includes 96 cables with varying lengths ranging from 82 meters to 295 meters, helping it maintain strength and stability. Now, looking at the benefits of this bridge, see, the REwise Bridge enhances tourism by improving the accessibility to the region's scenic areas. It also boosts local economic growth by facilitating better transportation and connectivity. Most importantly, it improves transportation, making travel easier and more efficient for locals and tourists alike. And this bridge is a truly landmark, not just in terms of engineering, but also for positive impact it will have on the region's growth and development. Now, let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to Anitkat Bridge. And the statements are, it is built in Uttarakhand. And the second statement is, it is India's first cable stayed rail bridge. And the third statement is, it can ensure wind speeds up to 213 kilometers per hour. How many of the above given statements are correct? So now, let's look at the statement number 1. It is built in Uttarakhand. See, this statement is absolutely incorrect because the Anitkat Bridge is not in Uttarakhand, but it is located in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, coming to the second statement, it is India's first cable stayed rail bridge. See, this statement is correct because the Anitkat Bridge is indeed India's first cable stayed rail bridge, marking a unique feat in the railway infrastructure. Now, coming to the third statement, it can ensure wind speeds up to 2000 kilometers per hour. This statement is also true because the bridge is designed to withstand extreme wind speeds, including up to 213 kilometers per hour wind speeds. So, now here the final answer is option B, which is 2 statements from the above given statements are correct. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements. See here, the statements are given about the Indus Water Treaty of 1960. So before answering this question, let's discuss the Indus Water Treaty and its impact on water sharing between India and Pakistan. So the Indus Water Treaty was signed in 1960 after 9 years of negotiations. It was designed to prevent any conflicts over water resources between India and Pakistan. The treaty regulates the use of water from the Indus river system, which includes 7 rivers, namely Ravi, Bias, Satluj, Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. See, India was allocated the eastern rivers, which are Ravi, Bias and Satluj, and while Pakistan received control over the western rivers, which includes Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. Interestingly, Pakistan got the majority of the water under this agreement, and the treaty was brokered by World Bank and is considered a successful model for peaceful water sharing between countries. It is designed to ensure that both nations cooperate on the use of these important water resources. However, despite its success over the years, there have been recent disputes. Issues like the Kishanganga power plant project and India's notice to Pakistan regarding potential modifications to the treaty have raised some tensions. Now, what is Kishanganga hydroelectric power plant? See, it is one of the disputes resolving around the Kishanganga hydroelectric power plant located on the Kishanganga river, which is a tributary to Jhelum river. See, and here Kishanganga project involves diverting water from the Kishanganga river to a power plant situated in Jhelum river basin, and the power plant is near Dharmahama village, about 5 kilometers north of Bandipur in the Kashmir Valley. This project is seen as a controversy by Pakistan, which argues that it could reduce the flow of water to its side of the river, potentially impacting its agriculture and water needs. And this treaty has played a crucial role in maintaining peace between India and Pakistan over water sharing, but issues like the Kishanganga hydroelectric power plant highlighting the complexities of managing shared water resources. Now, let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements. The Indus Water Treaty of 1960 gives control over the eastern rivers Indus, Chenab and Ravi to India. And the second statement is Kishanganga power station is located on the tributary of the river Jhelum. Which of the statements given above are correct? Now, let's look at the statement number 1. The Indus Water Treaty of 1960 gives control over the eastern rivers Indus, Chenab and Ravi to India. See, this statement is incorrect because according to Indus Water Treaty, India controls the eastern rivers which are Ravi, Bias and Satluj. Pakistan controls over the western rivers which are Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. So, statement number 1 is incorrect. Now coming to the second statement, Kishanganga power station is located on a tributary to the river Jhelum. This statement is correct because the Kishanganga hydroelectric plant is located on a tributary to Jhelum, which is Kishanganga river. So here the final answer is option B, which says second option is, so the second statement is correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding AUKUS. See here, AUKUS is nothing but Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. See, AUKUS is a trilateral security pact which is formed between Australia, United Kingdom and the United States, and it was announced in September 2021. The main aim of the pact is to bolster the security and defense cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. And here a major feature of AUKUS is the transfer of nuclear-powered submarine technology to Australia, which significantly enhances its naval capabilities, and this technology exchange is seen as a critical move in maintaining security balance in the Indo-Pacific, particularly given in the growing influence of China in the region. Now, what are the key areas of cooperation between AUKUS? See, first one is the nuclear-powered submarines. One of the key aspects of AUKUS is the agreement to provide Australia with nuclear-powered attack submarines, which will significantly enhance its defense capabilities. And Australia will receive 8 nuclear-powered submarines by 2040s. Now, and then comes the advanced technologies. The AUKUS Pact also focuses on collaboration in emerging technologies, including the artificial intelligence, AI, cyber warfare, quantum computing. And this partnership aims to advance technological innovation and strengthen defense systems, making the three nations more secure and technologically advanced in facing modern-day threats. Now, looking at the pillars of AUKUS, the AUKUS agreement is based on mainly 2 pillars, which are pillar number 1 is enhanced trilateral strategic partnership. This includes the transfer of and 8 delivery of 8 nuclear powered submarines to Australia by 2040s. And the second pillar is advanced technology cooperation. See, here this serves as a platform for dependent collaboration in cutting edge technological fields, ensuring that the nations remain at the forefront of global defense capabilities. And AUKUS has created a new dynamic in Indo-Pacific geopolitics, strengthening the defense and technological collaboration between these 3 key allies. And this pact is seen as an effort to address the regional security challenges, particularly related to growing influence of China. Now, getting back to our question here, consider the following statements regarding the AUKUS. See, the statements are, it is a security pact between Australia, Kenya and the United States of America. And the second option is, the pact includes cooperation in cyber warfare and quantum computing. Which of the statements given above are correct? So, here coming to the first statement, it is a security pact between Australia, Kenya and the United States of America. See, this statement is incorrect because it is a pact between Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States of America. And the second statement is, the pact includes cooperation in cyber warfare and quantum computing. See, this statement is correct because AUKUS includes the cooperation in areas like cyber warfare, quantum computing and also artificial intelligence. So here the correct answer is option B, which says second statement is true. Now, let's move on to the next question. Recently, the US President Donald Trump declared an end to what type of citizenship? So here the question is asked about revoking a type of citizenship by Donald Trump. So before getting into the topic, let's answer this question first to get the more clarity on topic we are discussing. So here the correct answer is option B, which is birthright citizenship. So now let's talk about the birthright citizenship in United States. And to begin with, this law grants automatic citizenship to anyone born on US soil. In fact, the Supreme Court confirmed this in 1898 case of United States versus Wong Kim Ark. In this case, the court decided that even children of non-citizen parents are still considered US citizens if they are born in the US. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. Under an executive order issued by the President Trump, birthright citizenship does not apply in certain situations. These exceptions mainly fall into two categories. First, there is unlawful presence. This happens when the mother was in the US without legal permission at the time of child's birth, or the father was neither US citizen nor a lawful permanent resident. And second, there is lawful but temporary stay. This applies when the mother was in the US legally but only for a short time, such as on a visa or through the visa waiver program, and the father was not a US citizen or green card holder. So in summary, while birthright citizenship is generally granted to anyone born in the US, there are specific cases, especially involving the legal status of parents, where it might not apply. Now let's get back to our question here. Yeah, we have already answered this question. So that's the birthright citizenship. Now moving on to the next question. Arrange the following countries from north to south. And they are Israel, Egypt, Syria and Lebanon. So before answering this question, let's get into the topic. Actually, here the topic is about the Israel and Hamas conflict. Now, let's break down a major development in the ongoing 15-month conflict that began with Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023. Recently, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has been reached. This agreement, mediated by Egypt, the US and Qatar, has three main goals: to bring humanitarian relief to Gaza, to release the hostages and inmates, and to end the fighting. So, what exactly is the proposal? The foundation of the plan comes from a proposal made by the US President Joe Biden in June 2024. While this sounds promising, there are still serious challenges, including unresolved issues and a lack of firm guarantees for a lasting peace. Now, let's look at the three phases of ceasefire plan. Phase 1. Ceasefire and initial hostage release. This stage begins within a 6-week truce, and Israeli forces will fully withdraw from all populated areas in Gaza. In exchange for this, there will be release of 33 Israeli hostages, including women and the elderly and the injured. Israel will release several hundreds of Palestinian detainees. By the end of this peace, all civilian hostages, whether alive or deceased, will be handed over, and humanitarian aid will ramp up with 600 trucks entering Gaza each day. And displaced Palestinians will be allowed to return home, although widespread infrastructure damage will make this very difficult. And now coming to the phase 2, which is remaining hostage release and full Israeli pullout. Here, Hamas will release the remaining hostages, mostly male Israeli soldiers, in exchange for more Palestinian prisoners. And Israel will completely withdraw its military from Gaza. However, there is no guarantee the ceasefire will hold, and there is still a real risk that fighting could resume. And coming to the third phase, it's rebuilding Gaza. The final phase focuses on reconstruction. A full rebuilding plan for Gaza will begin. During this time, the remains of any deceased hostages will be returned to their families. Now, let's get back to our question here. See here, the question is asked about the placement of countries from north to south, which helps you in geography. So now let's look at the countries first. Israel, Egypt, Syria and Lebanon. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. So here the correct answer is option B, which is 3412. That means Syria, Lebanon, Israel and Egypt from north to south. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the Panama Canal. So here the question is asked about the Panama Canal. Now here we discuss about the Panama Treaty. So let's explore the Panama Treaty and understand why it's important and also why the US is currently concerned about it. To begin with, Panama Canal is an artificial waterway that lies at a latitude of 9 degrees north. It stretches 80 kilometers connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This canal is incredibly important to the global supply chain as about 6% of the world's maritime trade passes through it. And it's a strategic location which helps to reduce the cost, time and distance involved in international shipping. The canal was opened in 1914 after the United States completed its construction, and it remained under US control until December 31st, 1999. So, how did control shift to Panama? That happened through the Torrijos-Carter treaties, which include two main treaties. First, there's the Panama Canal Treaty. This treaty ended the Panama Canal Zone and formally handed control to the canal to Panama on December 31st, 1999. Second, we have the Permanent Neutrality Treaty. Under this, the canal was declared neutral, meaning it must stay open to vessels of all nations. However, it also gives the US the right to defend the canal's neutrality and guarantees US ships priority passage during the military emergencies. Now, let's look at why the US is upset today and why they are concerned about it. See, first there's the issue of increased transit charges. A major drought in 2023 reduced the canal's shipping capacity by 36%, leading the Panama Canal Authority to raise transit fees. This has had a big impact on US ships, which rely heavily on the canal for trade. Second, there's growing concern about China's presence. Since Panama joined China's Belt and Road Initiative in 2017, there's been a surge in Chinese investment in the canal's infrastructure. Naturally, this has made the US uneasy about China's rising influence in such strategic location. So, now let's get back to your question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the Panama Canal. And the statements are: first statement is the Panama Canal lies at a latitude of 9 degrees north, and the second statement is it is a natural 80 kilometers canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Which of the statements given above are correct? Now coming to the statement number 1, the Panama Canal lies at a latitude of 9 degrees north. See, this statement is correct because the Panama Canal is located at the latitude of 9 degrees north. Now coming to the second statement, it is a natural 80 kilometers canal connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. See, this statement is incorrect because the Panama Canal is an artificial waterway, not a natural one. It was constructed by the US and later handed over to Panama in 1999. Now let's move on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the World Health Organization. So here the question is asked about the World Health Organization. So now let's talk about what it means when the United States decides to leave the World Health Organization. So to start with, the US plans to officially leave the World Health Organization in 12 months and will also stop all financial contributions to the organization's work. This is significant because the US is WHO's largest financial supporter, providing about 18% of its total funding. So, why is the US withdrawing? There are three main reasons behind this decision. First, the US government criticized the World Health Organization for its mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the President Donald Trump was especially concerned about the World Health Organization's slow response and how it dealt with China's role in early stages of the outbreak. And second, the administration accused the WHO of having a political bias. It believed that China and other member countries had too much influence over the organization. And third, there's the issue of financial burden. Between 2022 and 2023, the US gave about $1.3 billion in voluntary funding. On the top of that, it pays the highest assessed membership dues, which range between 100 to 122 million per year. And Trump compared this to China's much lower contributions, calling it unfair. Now, what is the World Health Organization here? The World Health Organization was founded in 1948. Its headquarters are in Geneva, Switzerland. It includes 194 member countries. The current Director General is Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Then, the WHO's main mission is to promote health, keep the world safe, and serve vulnerable populations. It works by connecting nations, partners, and people to ensure that everyone can achieve the best possible level of health. And the World Health Organization leads global health efforts, sets international standards, offers technical support, and helps countries to move toward universal health coverage. Each year, it also publishes the World Health Statistics Report. Now, let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the World Health Organization. And the statements are, it is headquartered in Washington, D.C. And the second statement is, it provides technical assistance to provide universal health coverage. And the third statement is, it releases the mental health report annually. How many of the above given statements are correct? Now, coming to the first statement, its headquarters is located in Washington, D.C. This statement is incorrect because the World Health Organization's headquarters are in Geneva, Switzerland, not Washington, D.C. Now coming to the second statement, it provides technical assistance to provide universal health coverage. This statement is correct because the World Health Organization provides technical assistance to help achieve universal health coverage. Now coming to the third statement, it releases the mental health report annually. This statement is incorrect because the World Health Organization releases the World Health Statistics report, not an annual mental health report specifically. Now moving on to the next question. As recently seen in the news, what is a pink fire retardant that was used in the Curb California wildfires? So now here the question is asked about the pink fire retardant. So before answering this question, let's understand what the pink fire retardant is and why it's used in wildfires. So the most commonly used type is called Post-Check, which is a brand of fire retardant. It is mainly made up of an ammonium phosphate based slurry. This means it contains salts like ammonium polyphosphate, which don't evaporate easily like water and stay on surfaces longer, making them more effective at slowing down fires. Now, to make it easier for firefighters to see where the retardant has been dropped, a pink color is added. This bright color stands out against natural landscapes, help the crews to build fire lines around the treated areas, which can help save both lives and property. However, there are growing environmental concerns about using this fire retardant because one of the major issue is that it become a source of pollution in rivers and streams. It can contain toxic metals like chromium and cadmium, which are known to cause cancer as well as the kidney and liver damage in human. Even more concerning, these toxic substances can also harm to kill the aquatic life. So now let's get back to our question here. As recently seen in the news, what is the pink fire retardant that was used to curb California wildfires? So here the options are potassium permanganate sprays, and the second option is carbon dioxide, third option is ammonium polyphosphate salts, and the fourth option is brominated flame retardants. So here the correct answer is option C, ammonium polyphosphate salts. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to annual groundwater quality report of the country for the year 2024. So here the question is asked about the annual groundwater quality report for India for the year 2024. So before answering this question, let's take a look at the annual groundwater quality report for India for the year of 2024, which was released by the Union Minister of Jal Shakti on December 31st, 2024. And this important assessment was conducted by the Central Groundwater Board. It offers a comprehensive overview of groundwater quality across the country by using background monitoring, trend analysis, and hotspot identification. Now, let's go through some of the key highlights of the report. Starting with the chemical composition in terms of cations, calcium is the most dominant, followed by sodium and potassium. For anions, bicarbonate is the most common, followed by chloride and sulfate. This tells us that most of India's groundwater is of the calcium bicarbonate type. However, there are sporadic cases of contamination in some regions, especially involving nitrates, fluoride, and arsenic. On a positive note, seasonal trends in things like electricity conductivity and fluoride levels shows that monsoon recharge is having a positive impact on water quality. When it comes to agriculture, the report looks at two important indicators, the sodium adsorption ratio and residual sodium carbonate. These results show that over 81% of groundwater samples are safe for irrigation, which is very encouraging. And still, there are localized problems in some areas with high sodium levels and elevated residual sodium carbonate values. These need to targeted solutions to avoid long-term soil degradation. On the final highlight, 100% of groundwater samples in the northeastern states fall into the excellent category for irrigation. So, now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the annual groundwater quality report of the country for the year 2024. And the statements given are, it is released by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of India. And the second statement is, as per the report, 100% of groundwater samples in the northeastern states are in the excellent category for irrigation. And the third statement is, report highlights that the overall water in the country is of calcium bicarbonate type. How many of the given above statements are correct? So, coming to the first statement here, It is released by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change of India. See, this statement is incorrect because the report is released by the Ministry of Jal Shakti but not by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now coming to the second statement, as per the report, 100% of the groundwater samples in the northeastern states are in the excellent category for irrigation. So as we have discussed earlier, 100% of the groundwater samples in the northeastern states are excellent category for irrigation. So coming to the third statement, report highlights that the overall water in the country is of calcium bicarbonate type. Yeah, this statement is also correct because the groundwater in India is predominantly of the calcium bicarbonate type as per the report. Now, moving on to the next question. Recently launched disaster risk warning system Kavacham was launched by which of the following states? So here the question is asked about a disaster risk warning system called Kavacham. So before answering this question, let's get into our topic. Now, let's take a closer look at Kavacham, which stands for Kerala Warnings, Crisis and Hazard Management System. This is Kerala's disaster risk warning system created to improve public safety during emergencies. It was developed by the Kerala State Disaster Management Authority with the support of National Disaster Management Authority and the World Bank. And Kavacham is made up of a strong and modern network that includes 126 siren strobe light units, 93 emergency operation centers, all connected through VPN and decision support software and a large data center. So, how does it help? See, Kavacham is designed to send out timely alerts about extreme weather events like heavy rain, strong winds and sea surges. These warnings are shared with the public using Kavacham siren network. Importantly, when these sirens were developed as a part of the National Cyclone Mitigation Plan, helping to ensure communities are prepared and can respond quickly in the times of danger. So now let's get back to our question here. Recently launched disaster risk warning system Kavacham was launched by which of the following states? So as we have discussed earlier, the correct answer is Kerala. Now moving on to the next question. Match the following blue flag certified beaches with their locations. So here the question is asked about the blue flag certification. So before answering this question, let's learn about the blue flag certification, which is a globally recognized label of excellence for beaches, marines and sustainable tourism. See, the blue flag is an international eco label that awarded to locations that meet strict environmental standards. It is granted by the Foundation for Environmental Education, which is based in Denmark. The main goal is to promote sustainable development in both freshwater and marine environments. To receive the blue flag, a beach must follow 32 specific criteria which fall under 4 main categories. The first one is environmental education and information, and the second one is water quality, and the third one is environmental management, and the fourth one is safety and services. Now, what are the benefits of this certification? See, a blue flag boosts the global image of a beach and encourages responsible tourism and supports a sustainable development of coastal areas. In India, several beaches have earned this prestigious label, and here are some of them, which are Golden Beach in Puri, Odisha, and Shivrajpur Beach in Gujarat, Kapad Beach in Kerala, Ghogla Beach in Diu, Radhanagar Beach on Havelock Island, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Kasarkod and Padubidri beaches in Karnataka, Rushikonda Beach in Andhra Pradesh, Kovalam Beach in Tamil Nadu, Eden Beach in Puducherry, Minikoi, Tundi and Katmat beaches in Lakshadweep. And these beaches represent India's commitment to maintaining high environmental and safety standards for both tourists and the nature. So now let's get back to our question. Match the following blue flag certified beaches with their locations. Now coming to the beaches here, the 4 beaches are given, which are Kapat Beach, Eden Beach, Padubidri Beach and Kadmat Beach, and the locations are Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and Lakshadweep. How many of the pair given above are correctly matched? So here the correctly matched beaches are Kapat Beach is located in Kerala. Yeah, the first one is correct, and then comes the Eden Beach, which is located in Puducherry. So here they have given Tamil Nadu, so this is incorrectly matched. Now coming to the third beach, Padubidri Beach, which is located in Karnataka but not Pondicherry. So this one is also incorrectly matched. And the last one is Kadmat Beach, which is located in Lakshadweep. Yeah, this one is also correctly matched. So here the final answer is option B. Only 2 of them are correctly matched, which are the first one Kapad Beach and last one Kadmat Beach. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following are the properties of steatite? So here the question is asked about steatite, and the steatite is also commonly known as soapstone here. So before answering this question, let's learn about soapstone, which is also known as steatite. So soapstone is a metamorphic rock and it is mainly made up of the mineral talc. It forms through natural processes called dynamothermal metamorphism and metasomatism, which usually happen in regions where tectonic plates collide with each other. And more specifically, soapstones develop in two ways: from the metamorphism of ultramafic rocks like peridotite, dunite, and serpentinite, or from the alteration of siliceous dolostones by hot and chemically active fluids. Now, let's talk about some of its properties. See, pure steatite is made up of approximately 63.37 silica, 31.88% of magnesia, and 4.74% of water. And soapstone is known to be a highly dense material, and it is also very resistant to heat, making it both durable and practical. And in India, soapstone is found mainly in two states, which is Rajasthan, which holds about 57% of country's reserves, and Uttarakhand, which accounts for about 25%. Now, what is soapstone used for? It has a wide range of applications. In construction and interior design, it is used for countertops, sinks, hearths, and sculptures. The talc extracted from the soapstone is also widely used in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and various industrial products. Now, let's get back to your question here. Which of the following are the properties of steatite or soapstone? The first one is relatively hard and with low density, metamorphic, resistance to heat. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. So now let's look at the first option, which is relatively hard. See, the soapstone is a soft material but not a hard one, so first one is incorrect. And then comes low density. This one is also incorrect because the soapstone is with dense material but not with the low density, and it is metamorphic. Yeah, the soapstone is metamorphic. That one is correct. And coming to the fourth one, resistance to heat. The soapstone is also resistant to heat, so that's why it is used for countertops and stoves, etc., and many other material, and also in the industrial products. So here the correct answer is option D, which says 3 and 4 options are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements regarding the International Union for Conservation of Nature, in short IUCN. So here the question is asked about the IUCN. So before answering this question, let's talk about a major step in conservation. So here the first ever multi-taxon global freshwater fauna assessment for the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, and this groundbreaking study was conducted by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is IUCN, in collaboration with Nature Journal. Now, one of the key findings is that the Western Ghats in India have been identified as a major hotspot with the highest number of threatened freshwater species in the world, and this region is home for over 300 species of freshwater fish, and sadly more than 1/3 of them are facing extinction. And within India, the state of Kerala has the highest number of threatened freshwater fish species. In particular, the Periyar River has emerged as a top conservation priority due to its high concentration of endemic and threatened species. Now, let's look at some of the main threats to freshwater biodiversity, and they are mainly pollution, dam constructions on the rivers, excessive water extraction, unsustainable agricultural practices, and invasive alien species, which are alien invasion of, the entrance of any other predators which disturbs the ecosystem of aquatic life animals, and then climate change, changes in land use patterns. So, what is IUCN? What is its role? See, the International Union for Conservation of Nature was founded in 1948, and it is headquartered in Gland, Switzerland. It is a global, private, and non-governmental organization focused on conserving nature and promoting the sustainable use of natural resources. The IUCN's mission is to influence, encourage, and assist societies in protecting nature while making sure that resources are used sustainably. So here, now let's get back to our question. Consider the following statements regarding the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, and the statements are: it is an organ of the United Nations that provides financial assistance to protect threatened species, and the second one is, it is headquartered in Switzerland. So which of the above given statements are correct? So coming to the first statement, it is an organ of United Nations that provides financial assistance to protect the threatened species. See, this statement is incorrect because IUCN is not a part of United Nations, and it is an NGO focused on nature conservation and sustainable resource. Now coming to the second statement, it is headquartered in Switzerland. Yeah, this statement is correct because they are headquartered in Switzerland, Gland. Now here the correct answer is option B, which says second statement is correct. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following Indian states linked the forest ecosystem with green GDP? So here the question is asked about the state which has linked the forest ecosystem with green GDP. So before answering this question, let's take a look at groundbreaking initiative by the state of Chhattisgarh in India, and it has become the first state in India to link its forest ecosystem with green gross domestic product. It means green GDP, and this initiative highlights the economic and environmental values of the forests, and it aims to conserve biodiversity and mitigate the climate change. So what exactly is the green GDP here? See, green GDP is a measure of economic growth that goes beyond traditional GDP by including the environmental impacts of that growth. So let me repeat again for you. See here, green GDP is a measure of economic growth that goes beyond traditional GDP by including the environmental impacts of that growth. So it takes into account the value of natural resources and the cost of environmental degradation. For example, deforestation or pollution you may take. And the significance of this initiative is clear. It acknowledges the critical role of forests in supporting both environmental sustainability and economic growth. Now, by valuing forest ecosystem services, Chhattisgarh hopes to promote sustainable development and ensure long-term economic prosperity for the state. So now let's get back to our question here. Which of the following Indian states linked the forest ecosystem with green GDP? So here, as we have discussed earlier, Chhattisgarh is the correct answer. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to cryopreservation. So here the question is asked about the cryopreservation. So before answering this question, let's know about the world's first cryopreserved lab-grown coral babies. So a breakthrough in science and conservation has just been achieved, and it's the world's first cryopreserved lab-grown coral babies have been successfully transported and settled into their natural homes on the Great Barrier Reef. So how was this done here? The process involved using cryopreservation techniques to fertilize the fresh coral eggs, and these eggs were collected during the October coral swamping event on the Great Barrier Reef, and these eggs were collected by the cryopreserved coral sperm and was used it for the fertilize them. Now, but what exactly is the cryopreservation here? See, cryopreservation aims to minimize ice crystal formation to keep the corals and their cell alive while frozen, and this is achieved by using cryoprotectants and substance that remove water from the cells as they freeze, which helps to protect the cell structures. And when these samples are later thawed, the cryoprotectants ensure the cells can survive the process. And the cryopreservation has a wide range of applications beyond the coral conservation, such as in vitro fertilization, bioengineering, stem cell research, and plant conservation. This innovation is a significant step forward in efforts to preserve the coral ecosystems and combat the challenges posed by the climate change. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the cryopreservation, and the statements are: it involves preserving biological materials at extremely low temperatures, and the second statement is: it is used in vitro fertilization, bioengineering, and stem cell research. Which of the statements given above are correct? So here, coming to the first statement, see, this statement is correct because the cryopreservation is a process of freezing biological materials such as cells, tissues, or even embryos at very low temperatures, right? So the statement 1 is correct. Now coming to the second statement, it is used in vitro fertilization, bioengineering, and stem cell research. This statement is also correct because, as we have discussed earlier, cryopreservation has a wide range of applications which are used in the in vitro fertilization, bioengineering, and also for the stem cell research. Now moving on to the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to the Global Water Monitor Report 2024. So here the question is asked about the Global Water Report 2024. Now, before answering this question, let's get into the topic. See, according to the Global Water Monitor Report 2024, climate change is causing serious disruption to Earth's water cycle. It is altering the circulation of water between the ground, oceans, and atmosphere, leading to significant environmental impacts. And this comprehensive report was published by an consortium of researchers from universities and organizations in countries like Australia, Saudi Arabia, China, Germany, Austria, USA, Netherlands, and Denmark. Now, let's know some key findings from the report, which include that climate change has intensified water cycle by increasing evaporation rates, mainly due to rising in the air temperatures. And also, water-related disasters have caused major damage in 2024, and both high rainfall and drought are becoming more extreme, making weather patterns increasingly unpredictable. And these findings highlight that the urgent need to address climate change and find solutions to protect our water resources and prevent further damage from water-related disasters. So now let's get back to our question here. Consider the following statements with reference to the Global Water Monitor Report 2024. And the statements are, it is published by the United Nations Environment Programme. And the second statement is, as per the report, climate change has intensified the water cycle by increasing the rate of evaporation. Which of the statements given above are correct? So here coming to the first statement, see this statement is incorrect because in 2024, Global Water Monitor Report was not published by the United Nations Environment Programme, but it was published by a consortium of researchers, that is various researchers from the universities and organizations in the countries like Australia, Saudi Arabia, China, Germany, Austria, USA, Netherlands and Denmark, and it was led by Professor Albert van Dijk and produced by an international research team. So here the statement 1 is incorrect. Now coming to the second statement, as per the report, climate change has intensified the water cycle by increasing the rate of evaporation. Yeah, this statement is correct because according to the Global Water Monitor Report 2024, it indicates that the climate change has intensified the water cycle by increasing the rate of evaporation and rising temperatures in the air. Now, here the final answer is option B, which says only second statement is true. Now, moving on to the next question. With reference to agriculture in India, how can the technique of genome sequencing often seen in the news and be used in the immediate future? So here the question is asked about the genome sequencing, and it's a question from UPSC Prelims 2017. So it's a very important topic to note about the genome sequencing. So before answering this question, let's dive into the Genome India project, which is a national scientific initiative aimed at revolutionizing the healthcare in India through genomics. So what is Genome India project? See, Genome India is a national initiative funded by the Department of Biotechnology under the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. And it is a collaborative project involving 20 academic and research institutions across the country. And here the primary goal is to create a reference genome specifically for the Indian population. Now, which will play a crucial role in advancing the precision medicine and genomics-based healthcare solutions. Now, what are the objectives of Genome India here? See, the project seeks to catalog the genetic variations found within India's diverse population, and it aims to develop precision medicine tailored to the Indian population's genetic makeup. It will also contribute to a national resource that can drive improvements in public health across the country. Now, there are some major achievements which are achieved by the Genome India project. Now, let's look at them. See, the sample collection of total 20,000 people have been collected from 83 diverse population groups across the India, and the whole genome sequencing, the project which has been completed, the whole genome sequencing for 10,000 individuals, offering valuable genetic insights. And the data of archival after sequencing the data is stored at the Indian Biological Data Center. And then coming to the data access, the project follows ethical guidelines which are governed by the Framework for Exchange of Data Protocol and Biotech Pride Guidelines, ensuring responsible and private data sharing. And what's the outcome of this project? See, the project has established a robust biobank and created a representative Indian reference genome, which will help in the development of personalized healthcare solutions. Now, looking at its institutional framework, the Indian Biological Data Center serves as the national repository for all biological and genomic data. And the Framework for Exchange of Data Protocol provides the framework for ethical data access and the sharing. And the Biotech Pride Guidelines ensures responsible management and sharing of biological data. And this project marks a significant milestone in advancing genomics-based healthcare for India, allowing treatments and solutions that are specifically suited to the Indian genetic profile. So, now let's get back to our question here. With reference to agriculture in India, how can the technique of genome sequences often seen in the news be used in the immediate future? And the statements are, genome sequencing can be used to identify genetic markers for disease resistance and drought tolerance in various crop plants. And this technique helps in reducing the time required to develop new varieties of crop plants. And also it can be used to decipher the host pathogen relationships in the crop. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So here coming to the first statement, genome sequence can be used to identify the genetic markers for disease resistance and drought tolerance in various crops. Yeah, this statement is true because by the sequencing of genomes of various crops, plants, and the scientists can identify specific genes or genetic markers which are responsible for the disease resistance, drought tolerance, and also for the pest resistance. So this statement is true. Coming to the second statement, this technique helps in reducing the time required to develop new varieties of crop plants. See, this statement is also true because the genomic sequence speeds up the breeding process by understanding the genetic makeup of plants. Now, coming to the third statement, it can be used to decipher the host pathogen relationships in the crops. Now, this statement is also true because genomic sequence which helps in understanding how crops interact with pathogens at the genetic level, and by analyzing these genomes of both the host, which means crop, and the pathogen, the researchers can understand the mechanisms of disease and the resistance and susceptibility, now which lead to the more effective management of the strategies. Now here the final answer is option D, which says statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. With reference to scramjet engine, consider the following statements. So here the question is asked about the scramjet engine. So before answering this question, let's know what is a scramjet. So first things first, what exactly a scramjet is here. See, a scramjet stands for supersonic combustion ramjet. It is a type of air-breathing engine that designed to work at incredibly high speeds. Think Mach 5 or faster. Unlike rockets which carry their own oxygen, a scramjet uses oxygen from the air. So instead of carrying a fuel and oxidizers like rockets, it relies on the air that burn the fuel. Now, how does a scramjet work? Let's break down that how it works. And the first step is air intake. First, the scramjet needs to be flying super fast. We are talking the speeds of at least Mach 3, which is 3 times the speed of sound. And that's essential because it needs the air rushing in fast enough to work its magic. Now, compression. As the air enters the engine, the shape of engine compresses the air naturally. No moving parts needed. And this is a big deal because it makes the scramjet design simpler and lighter. And then the next step is the combustion. Now, this is where things get excited. See, fuel, which is usually hydrogen, is injected into fast moving air. And this fuel then burns while the air is still moving at supersonic speed. This combustion process produces the hot gases. And finally, the thrust. See, those hot gases shoot up off the back of the engine, and that's what creates the thrust that pushes the vehicle forward. Now, what are the key features of the scramjets? Why are they used? See, now that we know how it works, let's quickly talk about some of the key features. See, a scramjet works best at hypersonic speeds. That's the Mach 5 and beyond. Now, no moving part means a simpler and more reliable engine. It needs a rocket or some other system to help it to get the speed. It can't start from the rest. So there's always something called the dual mode ramjet. This means the engine can switch between a regular ramjet and a scramjet depending upon the speed. Now let's look at the advantages of scramjet. See, it is lighter and more fuel efficient, and then it can be reusable, and also it carries more payload and great for hypersonic missiles and space access. Now let's see the limitations of the scramjet. However, even though there have been some pros and cons to everything. Now, looking at the limitations, it can't start from the rest. See, a scramjet cannot start from the rest itself. See, so it needs to be accelerated to high speeds first, usually by a rocket or some other booster. Now, controlling combustion at hypersonic speeds. It's not easy to control the combustion process when the engine is moving that fast at hypersonic speeds. The air behaves differently when makes the combustion tricky to manage. Now, let's get back to our question here. With reference to scramjet engine, consider the following statements, and the statements are scramjet require air intake to operate the engine, and the second statement is fuel needs to be stored at very low temperature, and the third statement is India is the fourth country apart from US, Russia and ESC to demonstrate the flight testing. Select the correct statements using the code given below. Coming to the first statement, scramjet require air intake is required to operate the engine. So here the statement is correct because the scramjets are air-breathing engines that rely on intake of atmospheric air for combustion. Now, coming to the second statement, fuel needs to be stored at very low temperature. This statement is incorrect because unlike cryogenic engines, which uses the liquid hydrogen, there is no typically use hydrogen in the scramjet, but it does not to be stored at cryogenic temperatures during operation. So fuel for scramjet is often stored at ambient temperatures or only slightly cooled, not extremely low temperatures like in cryogenic engines. But yeah, it also uses fuel which is liquid hydrogen. So coming to the third statement. India is the fourth country apart from US, Russia and ESC to demonstrate the flight testing. So this statement is correct because India, through the Defense Research and Development Organization, which is in short DRDO, is among the few countries that have successfully demonstrated the scramjet technology. Now here please note that ESA means European Space Agency, do not confuse. Now here the final answer is option C, which says statement 1 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. Recently the term SpaceX is discussed in the context of which of the following? And here the options are a supersonic combustion, space docking experiment, reusable space rocket, Starlink experiment. So let's answer this question first to get the maximum clarity of the topic we are going to discuss here. So here the correct answer is option B, space docking experiment. So now let's get into the topic here. See, the topic is about the SpaceX mission, which is performed by the Indian Space Research Organization. So SpaceX is a mission which is launched by the Indian Space Research Organization, which is in short the ISRO, and the primary focus is to demonstrate and to master in space docking technology, which is super important for things like space stations, lunar missions and even interplanetary travel. Now it was launched on December 30th, 2024, and the rockets used here are Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which is PSLV C-60, one of the ISRO's workhorses for sending satellites into the space. Now, looking at the objectives of the mission, so there are few key things that ISRO want to test and develop. Coming to the first one, it's space docking demonstration, which is the core goal is to develop and test how two spacecrafts can dock and undock in space, which is a kind of like the ultimate space handshake between the satellites. Now, satellite servicing. By enabling docking, SpaceX could help extend the life of satellites while allowing repairs and maintenance while they are in the orbit. Now think of it like getting your car fixed without bringing into it a shop. Expect the way cooler, right? Now, the power transfer validation. When two spacecraft dock, the mission will test whether they can transfer power between each other or not. And this is crucial for future in-space operations like powering satellites or robots after docking. And then comes the future mission readiness. Now SpaceX lays the groundwork for being future missions, and whether it's setting up a space station, going to the moon or even exploring the other planets. Now let's look at the orbit details. Now let's talk about where SpaceX is going. See, coming to the orbit, the two spacecraft named Chaser and Target will be placed in 470 km circular orbit at 55 degrees inclination. That's pretty high up there. Now, and the orbit cycle, they'll follow a local time cycle for around 66 days, which sounds like a long time, but it's perfect for testing out their systems. Now, the spacecraft with both the Chaser and Target satellites are about 220 kgs each. These two will be performing the critical docking maneuvers, which is the primary goal of the mission. And the secondary goal is once docking is successfully completed, the spacecraft will move on to some exciting secondary task, which is the power transfer. One of the secondary goals is to test the power transfer between the two spacecraft, and this will be a game changer for future technologies like in space robotics, spacecraft control and payload operations, especially after undocking. And now, why space docking matters? See, you might be wondering, why is this so important? Well, it's an essential for a lot of space missions, and here's why. 2. Lunar missions. See, docking will be critical when India heads to the moon or set up a lunar base, and then interplanetary exploration. As we look beyond our planet, docking technology will be a key for missions to Mars and beyond, and the space stations. Now we are also looking at setting up our own Bharat Antariksha space station someday, and docking will be a must for that. And autonomous docking. This mission helps to lay the foundation for autonomous docking, which will be critical for future missions that require complex operations in the space. Now let's look at some mission progresses and also some key achievements to highlight. See, the docking is successfully completed on January 16th, 2025. The docking was completed with remarkable precision, showing how well ISRO has mastered this technology and the integrated operations here. After the docking, the two spacecraft successfully operated as a single unit, like two parts of well-oiled machine working together. And then the indigenous innovations. SpaceX also featured the Bharatiya docking system, an innovative and rendezvous and docking strategy, and including cutting-edge inter-satellite communication. Now let's get back to our question here. As we have answered this question, recently the term SpaceX is discussed in the context of which of the following and its space docking experiment. Now let's move on to the next question. With reference to the human metapneumovirus, consider the following statements. So here the question is asked about the human metapneumovirus. So before answering this question, let's know about HMPV. See, human metapneumovirus or HMPV is a respiratory virus that can cause mild infections similar to the common cold and mostly affects certain vulnerable groups. Now let's take a closer look at what HMPV is and how it spreads. See, HMPV belongs to Pneumoviridae family, which is related to other viruses like respiratory syncytial virus, measles and mumps. It was first identified in 2001 and is known for causing mild respiratory infections, much like common cold. HMPV is most prevalent in winter and early spring. Now, while anyone can get HMPV, certain groups are more vulnerable. These include children, the elderly, and those with weakened immune systems, such as people with chronic illness or undergoing treatments like chemotherapy. Now let's look at some signs and symptoms of this disease. See, the virus contains some symptoms which are very similar to those of a common cold. You are likely to experience a cough, a runny or blocked nose, a sore throat, fever, and sometimes wheezing too. And these symptoms usually show up within 3 to 6 days after the infection. Now, what's the incubation period and the recovery for this virus? See, most of people recover HMPV on their own within a few days with rest and supportive care. The incubation period or the time between exposure and symptoms is typically from 3 to 6 days. In rare cases, HMPV can lead to complications like bronchitis or pneumonia, which may need medical attention here. And how this HMPV virus spreads from one to another. See, HMPV spreads through direct contact with an infected person or by touching the contaminated objects such as doorknobs, phones, keyboards, and then touching your face. It is also transmitted through the respiratory secretions like when someone coughs or sneezes. And what are the preventive measures we need to take? See, to reduce the spread of HMPV, practice good hygiene here. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Avoid close contact with the sick individuals and try not to touch your face. If you are infected, wearing a mask can also help from prevent transmission. Now, there is a testing and diagnosis for HMPV, and to diagnose HMPV, healthcare providers can use tests such as nucleic acid amplification to directly detect the virus genome or immunofluorescence and enzyme immunoassays to identical viral antigens in your respiratory secretions. And what's the treatment for this virus? Unfortunately, there is no specific vaccine or antiviral treatment for HMPV. Treatment focuses on relieving the symptoms, and over-the-counter medications can help with fever and pain, and decongestants may relieve a blocked nose. And also keep in mind that antibiotics are not effective as this is a viral infection. Now, how it can be prevented? See, to prevent HMPV, it is essential to maintain good hygiene practices such as regular hand washing and wearing a mask if you are infected. And people with lung conditions like asthma should take extra precautions to avoid the infection or prevent it from worsening. Now let's get back to our question here. With reference to human metapneumovirus, consider the following statements, and the statements are: it is a negative sense single-stranded RNA virus. It is a seasonal virus that causes respiratory illness worldwide. And the last statement is: no vaccine or specific antiviral is available. Select the correct statements using the code given below. And here, coming to the statement number 1, it is a negative sense single-stranded RNA virus. See, this statement is correct because HMPV belongs to the family Pneumoviridae, which is indeed a negative sense single-stranded RNA virus. Now, the second statement is: it is a seasonal virus that causes respiratory illness worldwide. Yeah, this statement is also correct because HMPV is typically a seasonal virus which is most common in winter and early spring, which causes respiratory infections that can range from mild cold-like symptoms to more severe illness such as pneumonia or bronchitis, but very rare conditions to observe. Now, coming to the final statement: no vaccine or specific antiviral is available. This statement is also true because there is no specific treatment or vaccine or medicine for this. There are some ways which can relieve your symptoms. So here the final answer is option D, which says statement 1, 2 and 3 are correct. Now moving on to the next question. With reference to the Guillain-Barré syndrome, consider the following statements. So here the question is asked about the Guillain-Barré syndrome. So before answering this question, let's know about the Guillain-Barré syndrome. See, the Guillain-Barré syndrome is a rare but serious autoimmune neurological disorder. It occurs when the immune system attacks the peripheral nerves, leading to muscle weakness and in some cases paralysis too. See, GBS is a very rare condition that affects around 1 to 2 per 1 lakh people. It is more common in adults and affects the males more frequently. In this disorder, the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the peripheral nerves, those outside the brain and spinal cord, leading to symptoms like muscle weakness and loss of coordination here. Now, what causes the Guillain-Barré syndrome? See, the Guillain-Barré syndrome is often triggered by viral or bacterial infection, which is one of the most common risk factors in an infection caused by the Campylobacter jejuni, which is a bacteria that leads to gastroenteritis, causing symptoms like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. And other infections that can trigger GBS include the flu and cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, and Zika virus. Now, how does the Guillain-Barré syndrome affect the body? To understand how does this works, we need to look at its mechanism. See, in the Guillain-Barré syndrome, the immune system attacks the myelin sheath, the fatty layer that surrounds the nerve cells, and this damage impairs nerve signaling and affects the peripheral nervous system, which controls muscle movement and sensations like temperature, touch, and pain. Now let's look at the symptoms of this syndrome. See, the symptoms of Guillain-Barré syndrome usually start with tingling and weakness, often being in feet and legs, and can spread upwards the arms and the face. The early signs are often mistakenly for other conditions, but they are the key to diagnosing this syndrome. Now, what are the key symptoms here? See, as the Guillain-Barré syndrome progresses, the key symptoms include pins and needles in your toes, fingers, ankles, or wrists, and pains in the legs and back, difficulty in walking, climbing stairs, and or making facial movements. They will become difficult. Now, and also sometimes double vision. See, in more severe cases, it can lead to the paralysis in the legs, arms, or face, and that may affect your chest muscles, causing the breathing difficulties. Now, the severe symptoms in this syndrome, which includes in the extreme cases, can be life-threatening. Like if the autoimmune nerve system is affected, this is the system that controls functions like blood pressure and heart rate, and it can lead to serious complications. Problems with speaking and swallowing can also occur, which require an urgent medical attention. Now, what's the treatment of GBS? See, although there is no known cure for the Guillain-Barré syndrome, there are treatments that can help manage the symptoms and promote recovery. The two main treatments are plasma exchange, which removes harmful antibodies attacking the nerves, and then intravenous immunoglobulin, which provides proteins that help neutralize these antibodies and reduce the immune response here. Now, looking at the progress and recovery, the most patients with Guillain-Barré syndrome do recover. Through recovery can take a long time. With the right treatment, many people make nearly a full recovery, but it may take few weeks, months, or even years for some time. And the key is the early diagnosis and prompt the treatment to minimize the nerve damage. Now, moving on to the next question. Consider the following languages: Gujarati, Kannada, Telugu. Which of the above has been declared as classical languages by the government? So here the question is asked about the classical languages. So before answering this question, we are going to talk about the classical languages. See, the classical languages are also known as Shastriya Bhasha. These are languages with a rich historical legacy, deep literacy, and also the deep literary traditions and a unique cultural heritage. They serve as the guardians of India's cultural roots, reflecting key moments in our history and traditions. Now, to recognize and preserve this ancient linguistic treasure, the Government of India started the classical language status in 2004. And currently, 11 languages have been designated as classical: Tamil, Sanskrit, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, Odia, Marathi, Bengali, Assamese, Pali, and Prakrit, based on recent additions. But how does these language get this status? Now, let's look at the criteria once. Originally in 2005, 4 main points were used, which are high antiquity, means the language must have text or history that go back 1500 to 2000 years. And then comes ancient literature. There should be old valuable texts that generations have cherished. And then knowledge texts. And the literature must be original, not borrowed from other traditions. And then distinct evolution. The classical form should be different from the modern version, and there may be even a gap or discontinuity between them. Now, later in 2024, one criterion was updated. Instead of just original literary tradition, it now includes knowledge texts like prose, poetry, inscriptions, and epigraphal evidences. So, why is this important? See, because these languages have played a huge role in India's cultural and intellectual development, the texts help us to understand the literature, philosophy, religion, and much more. They also build national pride and help us to preserve our cultural identity. And to support this, the government offers several benefits. Firstly, there are international awards for scholars. Every year, 2 awards are given to scholars who make outstanding contributions in research, teaching, or promotion of classical languages. And then the one who help to encourage more scholarship and honor those who keep classical traditions alive. And secondly, there is a center of excellence created for each classical language. This helps in research, documentation, and deeper linguistic studies, ensuring the revival and growth of the language. Third, the University Grants Commission sponsors the professional chairs in central universities, deemed universities, and recognized research institutions. These are meant to support focused teaching and research in classical languages. Apart from this, let's look at other language promotion efforts. The 8th schedule of Constitution lists 22 languages such as Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, and many more, and the goal is their development and enrichment. Then there are constitutional provisions like Article 344 Clause 1 setting up a commission every 5 years to promote the use of Hindi, and then Article 351. It's the union government's duty to spread and promote Hindi. And there are some major initiatives which also support the Indian languages. Now let's look at them. First one is Project Asmita, which aims to produce 22,000 books in Indian languages within 5 years. And then New Education Policy, which plans to transform the Sanskrit universities into multidisciplinary institutions. And then the Central Institute of Indian Languages, which works to promote Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, and Odia. And lastly, the Central Sanskrit Universities Bill 2019 gives central status to 3 Sanskrit universities, including the ones in Delhi and Tirupati. So in summary, classical languages are not just old languages, but they are the pillars of India's culture, knowledge, and pride. The government is taking strong steps to recognize and preserve and promote the precious linguistic treasures here. So now let's get back to our question. Consider the following languages: Gujarati, Kannada, Telugu. Which of the above has been declared as classical languages by the government? So here the correct answer is Kannada and Telugu. So Kannada and Telugu are the languages which were declared as the classical languages by the government here. So the correct answer is option C. Now moving on to the next question. Which of the following was given classical languages status recently? See, this was PYQ which was asked in Prelims 2015. So the correct answer is Assamese. As of now, Assamese is the language which got the classical language status recently. But when this question was asked in 2015 UPSC Prelims, the correct answer was Odia, because then Odia got the classical language status recently in 2014. So now let's move on to the next question here. Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan recently seen in news is related to. So here the question is asked about the Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan. Before answering this question, now let's explore an exciting new initiative by Government of India called Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan. It's all about battlefield tourism. Yes, visiting the actual sites where India's historic battles took place. But it's not just about travel. This initiative is part of India's larger cultural revival effort, aiming to connect us with our military history and national heritage. Now let's look at the main objectives. First, it aims to revive and preserve the legacy of India's legendary battlefields by promoting them as heritage tourism sites. Second, it hopes to instill a sense of national pride and raise awareness about our rich military history. And third, it creates a space for patriotic tourism, offering real, meaningful historical experiences. Now, what makes this initiative special? It promotes the tourism with a purpose. That means it's not just about sightseeing, but deep historical immersion. Visitors can trace the actual battles that shaped India's destiny. These sites are treated as sacred landscapes, symbolizing our honor, bravery, and sacrifice. At the same time, this initiative helps in reviving regions, especially those lesser known places with great historical significance, by boosting their economic and cultural growth. Through this, Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan also supports nation building through heritage, and it helps citizens, especially the youth, to reconnect with India's civilization and military roots. Now, why is this initiative so significant? See, firstly, it promotes the cultural reconnection by bringing attention to lesser known stories of bravery from our martial past. Secondly, it gives a boost to tourism, especially heritage and experiential tourism, which goes beyond just monuments. Third, there's a great educational value here. Students and tourists can learn history on site where the actual events unfolded. And fourth, it helps in regional development by improving the infrastructure, creating the jobs, and encouraging local tourism related activities. And finally, it encourages The patriotic engagement. Citizens are inspired to honor the sacrifices made in these historic places. So, in short, the Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan is a powerful step towards reviving our battlefields, remembering our heroes, reconnecting with our roots, all while promoting tourism that's both meaningful and impactful. So now let's get back to our question here. Bharat Ranbhoomi Darshan recently seen in news is related to, and the options are: option A, development of India's border villages as tourism hubs. Option B, promotion of India's traditional warfare techniques. Option C, preservation and promotion of historic battlefield sites as tourism destinations. And option D, a digital archive of ancient Indian warfare literature. So as we have discussed earlier, here the correct answer is option C, which says preservation and promotion of historic battlefield sites as tourism destinations. Now let's move on to the next question. With the reference to the Indus Valley script, consider the following statements. So here the question is asked about the Indus Valley script. So before answering this question, now let's dive into one of the most fascinating mysteries of ancient India, the Indus script. See, this is the earliest known form of writing in the Indian subcontinent, and it dates back to the Indus Valley civilization around 2600 to 1900 BCE. But here's the most intriguing part. It's still undeciphered. Yes, despite all our advances, no one has cracked this code yet. Let's first understand the key features of the script. To start with it was written in a style called Boustrophodon. This means one line goes right to left and the next line goes from left to the right, like the movement of an ox plowing a field. And this script is pictographic, made up of 250 to 400 distinct symbols, many of which look like drawings or simplified images. These symbols were mostly found on objects like seals, terracotta tablets, amulets, poetry, and also the tools. Now, one interesting point is the length of the inscriptions. Most are very short, about 5 symbols on an average, and the longest known inscription just 26 characters in it. And the different scholars have estimated how many total symbols the script might include. The first one is S.R. Rao suggested around 62 symbols, and Asko Parpola estimated 425, and Brian Cavils proposed up to 676. Some researchers believe that script would be logosyllabic, where each symbol represents a word, object, or syllable. Now let's talk about the major theories regarding the language behind the script. One popular idea is the Dravidian hypothesis, supported by scholars like Asko Parpola. This theory uses the rebus principle, where symbols represent words with similar sounds. It also points to the Brahui language, which is a Dravidian language still spoken in Balochistan, and possible links to Old Tamil. Another theory is a Sanskrit or Indo-Aryan theory, which connects the script to early forms of Sanskrit. However, this idea is mostly rejected because there's no real continuity and the timing doesn't match the known Aryan migration. A completely different view is the non-linguistic symbol theory proposed by the scholars like Farmer, Sprout, and Witzel. And they argue the script might not be language at all, it could just have been used for rituals, administrative tagging, or trade. Now, why is it so hard to decipher? See, there are 3 big challenges here. The first one is there is no bilingual inscription like the Rosetta Stone to compare and help us to decode it. And the texts are very short and repetitive, which makes it hard to find the patterns. And the scholars still debate whether it's a real writing system or just a set of non-linguistic symbols. But if we ever do manage to decipher the Indus script, the impact could be huge. We might unlock key details about the economy of Harappan people, how they traded, ruled, and managed their resources. It could also confirm the cultural and linguistic connections, especially with the Dravidian language family. Academically, it would fill major gaps in South Asian history and deepen our global understanding of ancient civilizations. And historically, it could even reshape how we view the Indian civilization on the world stage. So, while the Indus script remains a mystery, it's a window into the remarkably advanced civilization waiting to be understood. So, now let's get back to our question here. With reference to the Indus Valley script, consider the following statements, and the statements are: the script is written in Devanagari script, and the second statement is it follows the Boustrophodon writing style, and the third statement is the longest inscription found contains more than 100 characters. Which of the statements given above are correct? Now here coming to the first statement, the script is written in the Devanagari script. See, this statement is incorrect because the script is not written in Devanagari scripts, they are pictographic and are unidentified. Now coming to the second statement, it follows the Boustrophodon writing style. Yeah, this statement is true. Now, coming to the third statement, the longest inscription found contains more than 100 characters. So this statement is false because the longest inscription known is with 26 characters. So here statement 2 is the correct answer. Now, option A is the final correct answer, which says only statement 2 is correct here. Now, we end this video by this topic and hope it will be very helpful for your UPSC preparation. Thank you.